Let's see what the next hit pull will yield. And straight to the Allies. All the action is going to happen in the front of the turn here. Let's see if there's any charges we can undertake. I don't think so. Yeah, no charges. We only have one maneuver unit that could possibly charge, and that would be pretty fruitless. So you know it's bad if I don't undertake the charge. So we'll just move straight on to the Allied movement phase. Well, at Quatre, we did what little we could. Basically, we just tried to shift the Hanoverian Brigade over this way. I am going to try to drive home a couple of assaults. These are skirmishers, so they'll probably run away. They can get those guns. That would be a big win, and also this depleted French battalion here. If we could just clear them out of the way, that would definitely open up this side of the field. The first Guard Brigade, I think, is going to enter in on this turn, maybe. And at present, this is blocked, and they will have to move up to either side of the entry hex. The 5th Brigade, we just sort of shifted them around. We're in a good position to counterattack. Really don't like the spot they're in, especially with, this is part of the 1st Brigade, and they're in kind of some bad shape here. If they do not rally, that would open up this whole area. So try to put some forces back here to potentially counter that should it happen. On the plus side, we did get some artillery limbered and moved out of the way here for the 1st Corps. There's still plenty more. This cavalry little stand of artillery right here is still stuck. Got to flip him. But he was able to get some of the remaining 1st Corps artillery out of the way. Right next to him, we see the 7th Brigade starting to move down this road. I think basically it's going to try to hook up with the 5th Brigade as we anticipate the 1st Corps is going to start falling back here. This unit could come in next to the 5th. Just behind it is the Corps Artillery and the 8th Brigade. I'm going to try to shift them in down this way. So the idea is to get the 2nd Corps moving this way to kind of take over the defense from the crumbling 1st Corps. A lot of this is based on just what avenues of approach are open to us. So for instance, the 6th Brigade here, it was too cluttered to go any other direction, so we're probably going to move them out this way and then down towards the fighting. None of the cavalry for the 2nd Corps was in command range of von Perch, so they didn't move this turn. Perch himself ended up right here. He's going to try to keep these 2 brigades in command. That way they can spend another command point on the 6th Brigade there to keep them moving. So that would be 2 command points to get most of the 2nd Corps still moving towards the fight. And squandered a command point on the 3rd Corps here. I just don't know that I'm going to be able to affect what I thought. I guess history tells us something, doesn't it? We just moved up the 10th Brigade to the river line here, or creek. They have this light cavalry, so they were impeded by their zones of influence. Move these lancers across just in case they have an opportunity to charge and possibly wipe out those guns maybe in the next turn. But otherwise, no real options. Got to try to recover the 12th Brigade. That was a badly executed movement. Now we'll move on to our fire phases. Defensive fire for the French west of the road here. A couple of casualties, both on units that are assaulting, so they'll have a tougher time of it when they go to drive home their attacks. Although this one's a roll to close, so I think it'll be alright. But moving a little to the east, we're going to see some tougher outcomes. Got a casualty here, no biggie, but had a casualty and a leader casualty. The Light Brigade for the Brunswick Wolfermans, I think. He is killed, dead, out of there. Took a casualty and they failed the morale check with the loss of the leader. So they will disorder. That will be their third casualty. Don't have any good places to go. Now, unfortunately, very similarly, the Line Battalion took a leader casualty as well, and he is also killed. And they are taking heavy fire there. They lost 2 casualties, and they also failed their morale check. Now they are going to have to retreat right through their own men. That's their only avenue. So that'll be their 5th casualty overall. So the Brunswickers are getting torn up. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, right to there, and then we're going to put morale checks on those 2 units. So a good high roll for this first one, but the second one I rolled very low. That's going to be a disorder of that unit. So some cascading morale check failures. That's effective defensive fire for you. Here east of the crossroads, only 1 casualty and fortunately no morale check failures. Can't afford any more of those on this side of the line. Here at Ligny, we only had 1 casualty over here in the central area. That's that big Landwehr unit, and they actually stood up again. Another casualty, another morale check pass. French are really running out of things to shoot at over on this side of the field. But here, the 2nd Brigade, faced by the 13th Division, they managed 3 casualties. This one failed a morale check. He actually is next to a Landwehr unit who was able to stand and receive fire and incur his own casualty. So we're going to retreat that guy. That's going to be his 3rd casualty. Otherwise, that'll do it for the defensive fire phase. We'll just turn around and start shooting the offensive fire. The only fire on the far east side here from the 3rd Corps is this square firing against that cavalry, and they didn't cause a casualty, but they passed their morale check. West of Ligny, 1 good shot by the Landwehr. Apparently their muskets do work once in a while. They did get a casualty, but morale check passed. Amongst all these fires, we had a couple more casualties, but no morale check failures. The British are shooting a little better, inflicting 2 casualties, but again, no morale check failures. So we're not really driving anybody back. Firing down the line, we got nothing. We did get one good result. These Jaegers in skirmish order fired on that French Lancer regiment, inflicting a casualty. More importantly, a morale check failure. So they'll actually be routed, plus ground disorder and retreat, after I knock over a bunch of counters. So I go 1, 2. Since they're exhausted, they can only retreat a third of their movement. That gets them to about right there. So that should bring a close to our fire phase. The Allies did not give as good as they got, so we'll move right on to melee. The only assaults are going to be right here, the 3rd Division, trying to push its way out of this little corner it's stuck in, push back the 6th French Division in front of it. So we will just start right to left with this attack right here. The Hanoverians have already rolled the close, so we just have to roll the stand here for the French. The French do stand. These Jaegers aren't especially great in melee attacks. They manage a 1.5 to 1 attack, but they roll a terrible number. They roll very low dice and they get a attacker disorder. That's going to be a casualty and a retreat. I'm trying to think of where they can go. They've got to go 4 movement points, so we can get them over to here. So that's the first attack failed. Second will be against those guns. See if the French gunners can fight as well as the Prussians. So the first will be the pre-melee morale check. I think that'll be 2 to 1 odds. Maybe they are. The guns stand, but the Hanoverians fail the pre-melee morale check. So they will disorder and retreat. That included the brigade leader. So apparently his men aren't very inspired by his presence. Hey, at least they're clearing space for the guard division to arrive. And we'll lead us one more attack. I have a decision to make here. If I retreat these skirmishers, I expose my guns to yet another melee. I may not want to risk that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try to stand and take the casualty from my skirmishers, or possibly just a retreat if they fail their pre-melee morale check. So I think that's 4 against 3 increments, and they're in skirmish mode. The French stand, the Hanoverians drive home their attack, have pretty good odds, 3.5 to 1, and they roll a defender disorder. So that'll be a casualty for the French and a retreat, which ultimately I think is a little better than exposing those guns to a loss. I'll retreat them right to there and advance to take that hex. I'll do it for our melee phase. I'll just move on to our reorganization for the Allies. Rallies have been a mixed bag. Kind of bad here at Quatre, not so bad over Ligny, but is this too gamey? These are the Hanoverian Jaegers that failed their melee. This is the entry hex they came in at. I'm having a hard time trying to rationalize not retreating them off the board and losing them. Is it too gamey to retreat them this way? Technically there's a depot at the road to Brussels this direction. I just don't want to lose units just to lose units, not at this point, especially with the Allies. So that's what I'm going to do. They're running away along the creek line for some reason, giving them a chance to rally maybe next turn. That said, the rest of the army is in pretty poor shape anyway. Two of the Brunswickers routed away. Hanoverians, the Uhlans, heck, even one of the British battalions. Where are they? There they are. They routed away. So, tough shape over here at Quatre. Now, Ligny is a little better. Has a little cluster of units. Basically the 1st Brigade there. They had been in disorder, so they did rally. That'll help preserve that area. A couple of units ran away right in the central area here. But unfortunately, the biggest problem was over here in the east. The Prussian Landwehr did not rally. A couple of units did right there. The line and that Landwehr unit did. But 4 others continued their retreat. So now the 12th Brigade is pretty weak. At least they're not going to be attacked for at least a little while. The action chits are yet to come, so they should get a bit of a reprieve, and maybe they'll get a chance to move first next turn. So I'll do it for this chit. We'll just go on to the final chits, the action chits. In spite of all those chits in the cup, we actually only have the 4 action chits remaining. So reinforcements. And there are reinforcements this turn. We have the French 1st Corps being diverted to Ligny. And I think we have some British arriving at Quatre. No, that's a mistake. The British Guard Division arrives next turn, 5:20 p.m. That means we only have the 1st Corps for the French arriving. Okay, after thinking about it for a little while, I'm going to go back on my previous decision about the arrival of the 1st Corps. I'm going to use the variable arrival table. I think that's the best thing. Maybe that's the most accurate thing for the rules, but it's best for this situation. So it means I need to roll some dice. A 64. Of course, that's the worst possible roll. And we rolled terribly for the 6th Corps. And now we rolled poorly for the 4th Division in the cavalry of the 1st Corps. That corresponds to a 7:40 p.m. arrival, which will actually be after the arrival of the 1st Division, which I think is at, I better check real quick, 6:40 p.m. So no big arrival for the French this turn. That 4th Division will just sort of slot in to the rest of the 1st Corps as it arrives, but that won't be for quite some time. So I think the only reinforcements I'm going to enter are going to be the artillery of the 3rd Division that's been sitting off the board for a while now. There's that artillery that's been waiting to arrive. We'll just kind of get them unlimbered over here. Good enough. Reinforcements. Pull the next chit. Regroup. After a slight adjustment of forces, we'll just draw us another chit here. Leader movement. We'll shift our leaders around, try to establish some command. As promised, our main goal was to get Wellington back over to the other side of the road, inside of Picton. Maybe you can get him activated. And possibly activate a a brigade leader. That was the main effort. A little bit of shifting around over at Ligny. Nothing too major. Maybe we got the field marshal back here with the leader of the First Corps, get him reactivated while still being in range of the Second Corps leader to keep him activated. There he is. Otherwise, not a lot happening. And we really only have one more chit left in the cup. That's artillery. Since our howitzers are limbered and retreating, no grand battery, we're just going to call the cup empty and move right on to the turn adjustment phase. Since it's the top of the hour, we have no more things to undertake, no morale levels to check or anything like that. So that'll be the conclusion of this 1700 turn. After a couple of turns of back and forth and high drama, this one was a little quieter. The 3rd Division remained stuck here. Some ineffectual assaults really kept them in position. The French tried to charge their cavalry to open up some space. They did that. But the biggest effect was the failure of morale checks, especially for the Brunswick units here. They're really clearing out a giant hole here for the French just because they can't get themselves arranged and in line. The biggest next problem for them is the loss of their leadership. Basically 3 of their 4 leaders are gone, meaning they only have one, the advance guard, that can actually maneuver. Not sure how we're going to get around that. This could really spell a doom for the Allied army. The 2nd Dutch Belgian is kind of coalescing here, but they're so beaten down and weak, I don't know they're going to be much help in the defense, let alone any kind of counterattack. The British brigades are kind of holding on, but they are getting flanked and taking some serious losses. Wellington, as least, has gotten over there, and he will be able to activate at least 1 brigade, and certainly Picton. That should give them probably 2 maneuver units next turn. His ADC, Gordon, is still way over here, and he would have to move by normal movement all the way over here to rejoin Wellington before he can fly and activate another brigade. So that's going to be a couple of turns at least. Ligny was also relatively quiet. The 3rd Corps, 8th Division, has been widening their bridgehead across the creek here and making room for what's to come. Right here they're just trying to bottle up the Prussian 5th Brigade, which had made quite a splash, but then slowed down a little bit. At least they've been able to recover some morale and disordered units. That'll help. The 2nd Brigade against the 13th Division there is starting to go the way of the French. Even though they're both taking pretty heavy losses, we're seeing more morale check failures here for the Prussians as the 1st Corps kind of continues to disintegrate. At least the 2nd Corps is getting active and coming on. They literally are active, so they will be able to maneuver more brigades with 1 command point. Still have the 6th way off out of command range and the 5th. So to get everybody moving will be quite an investment in command for the Prussians. Over here to the east, I can see why Thieleman's feint was so difficult. It's taking too much command. He's out here, he's not activated, so anything he does requires a full command point. So I spent 5 command points, maybe 6 in the last couple turns, and gotten basically nothing for it. A large contingent of Landwehr has routed, and they have no real position here. The French cavalry have maintained control. So it remains to be seen whether or not we will commit any more command points here in the short term. Now, the most interesting thing to look for is what mistakes did I make that I won't catch until later? I'm always making some kind of mistake. Sometimes I make little compromises, and that's okay, but by mistake I mean I leave someone out of command that I really wanted in command. I fail to activate something. So I'll keep an eye out for that and try to report as I find it. But this is looking really, really tough for the Prussians and the British. A little tougher than I thought. But we'll power through a couple more turns and report back at the, I guess that'll be the 6 p.m., 1800 turn.